Hi, everyone. This is Jan Guarino, and you're in Fearless Watercolors. And today we're going to really just be using our paper, our paints, our water to explore sunflowers. I don't really worry about it looking like a finished painting. And I think letting go of that thought that this has to be like a great painting with, a dozen sunflowers. We're going to be warming up and we're going to be doing a few different watercolors of sunflowers today. So really, you could use any images of sunflowers. These were some that one of my students sent to me, which were just perfect. You could see I sort of came in and cropped them. I love this little one here, like tucked over there, like kind of showing for it or draping over so they're not perfectly round on all sides. I love this little fold over here. That's really great stuff. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be looking for. This one I think I'm a little less enamored with, but certainly because they're all kind of facing forward. So I probably won't be using that one. We also have colored pencils with us today. Nothing is pre-drawn, no contour drawing was given. So I just have a violet, I think it's an orangey, yellow, a red, a turquoise, and a brown. I don't know which ones I'm going to use. I'm going to put them on my paper and see what it looks like. So let me switch cameras for you guys. So here's some very loose paintings that I've done in this very free and kind of style in which you get this essence of the paint of the flower, right, without going into heavy detail. So this is clearly like a wisteria kind of plant. This is our beloved sunflower, which we're doing today, which is perfect for this time of year. And this was one that I just did a thistle, I believe it's called. You horticulturists could probably correct me on that one, with a little bee coming in. And you could see how just very loose and free they are. This is what we're going to be doing today. And I am very much using just the back of old paintings that I'm not crazy about. I probably have like I don't know, an 8x10 here that I'm just going to use the back of another painting, that old paper. There, it's 140 arches. And we're just going to be using these. Let me cut this ripped up a little weird. Yeah, so this is the idea, is a nice little piece of paper. Perfect, right? And we're going to give ourselves some inspiration. So some inspiration might be maybe these two. Let's just start with one. And so this idea of maybe this top one, right? These or this one here, where the petals are folding into the center of the sunflower. So what we're going to do is I'll keep this along the side here to just show you the inspiration. And here. And let me go a little closer for you. Hold on, let me just adjust my camera a little bit. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to take one of my pencils. Now you could use any color pencil, it doesn't matter. I'm probably going to do one a little bit darker so that everybody could see it pretty well. Hold on, let me just adjust my camera a little bit. There we go. And so if I'm doing this one right here, what all I want to do is indicate, a little closer, here we go, indicate just that center part of the sunflower, and maybe very lightly indicate maybe where some of the petals might come in. I'll switch colors and I'll just maybe indicate some of the leaves. Very loose, very incomplete, just to give ourselves an idea. The yellow will be going over here. We don't have to outline those areas, right? We know we're going to be carrying yellow over there, and maybe, a stem or something. That's really all I want. And really what I'm saying is that I'm indicating where I'm drawing where it goes. I'm going to paint what it is. And getting that kind of just that thought across is a little bit challenging. I know, because we're so used to drawing everything. But this is going to be different. This is going to be a little different. I'm going to have my big mop brush, my number 20, my silver black velvet. So 20. And I'm going to have my number 10. This was one of those brushes. I don't know if the stores still have them, the museum stores. This is from the Met. So they're very inexpensive little brushes, but they really are great, like about a number 10, 8, a 10, about that size. The other brushes that I'll probably use is my, oh, I definitely will always have a rigger hanging around for sure. And also it would be very nice to have maybe a, some of these, I'm going to have it just in case, a couple of flat angles, just have them there ready to go. I like having my brushes sort of right there because it gives me the opportunity to grab a brush right away and not worry about finding a brush down the road or looking for it. So I have this little brush holder, which really comes in super handy. And that's that. So just some basic marks is really all I want. I indicated just the center. I did not paint any petals at all. I did kind of outline where some of these yellow petals may come into the dark spot on the sunflower, and then maybe where some of my leaves might be. Of course, I'll be adding more, and maybe where my stem might be. This is just a warm up. Don't get crazy. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to arbitrarily, in no particular spot or whatever, but you do want to see where you're putting it. I am not going to wet the entire sheet of paper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put water down in just different spots. And I'm going to try to see if I could reflect this for you so you could see that I don't have water everywhere. You could see there's holes. There's areas that I do not have water in, okay? You're going to want those areas there. Get that reflection going. See those areas, you see where it's wet and you see where it isn't. Do not wet the whole thing. Okay, now we are going to switch to our number 10, and I'm going to go for probably my Quin Gold. I'm going to start with that. I think that would be really beautiful. Now, what's going to happen is that your paint is going to go into dry areas and wet areas. We are not going to try to control it at all. We are simply going to let it, if it hits a dry area, great, make a beautiful mark. If it goes into a wet area, great, it's going to move on its own. So you can actually see here where it went into wet, and then I have a nice little dry area there. It definitely bled up here. I am not going to worry about where it's going or any of that. So by putting that water sort of on to begin with, gives us an opportunity to feel a little looser about our marks. Okay. Don't judge it too fast. Just have some fun. I'm not painting petals. I'm simply letting the paint move on my paper in a loose fashion. This is Quin Gold. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful color. Now, I know we just started, but like if I stop now, wouldn't you know what kind of flower we were going for? I just charged up right in here a little bit with a little bit more Quin. So charging up just means I'm dropping a little bit more paint in and I'm letting it sort of take off. And it already deepened it. And we could go to our Quin Gold Deep, maybe just drop in a little bit of Quin Gold Deep in some of these areas. Let that paint just move in the water for you. Beautiful edges. Make sure if it hits a dry area that you really have a beautiful edge. And I'm going to carry this out past the edge of my paper, because that's just the way my paint flowed. So I'm just going to make it one really, really big sunflower. And so I'm not getting caught up in anything that's going on here. However, I want to show you, look at the beauty of what's happening. I didn't do this. What happened was I allowed it to happen. I didn't try to control my paint. And so something really beautiful happened there. Okay. And of course, it's entering into my center. That's good. That's going to be really, really helpful to us when we go to do the center and really charge that up with a darker color. I'm going to wait a little bit on that. Maybe what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of maybe violet to the very center, just to start the conversation of something happening in there. Just adding a little bit of, you could use your any violet that you have. I used a little bit of my Imperial Purple, and I used a little bit of my Cobalt. And of course, yellow and violet are complementary colors, which simply means that together they kind of tone each other down, but when they sit next to each other, they're beautiful. And I want to continue in that center a little bit more, and I'm going to drop a little dragon's blood in. And I'm just going to let it sort of flow and move and be where it's going to be. So it's spreading out. It's going on its own. Don't try to control that. Do not try to control it. Just let it be. The idea of not controlling it is harder than controlling it. We all know how to take our paints and move it perfectly on our paper. The tough thing is to not worry about what's going to happen. That's a lot harder to do. A lot harder to do. Not an easy thing. That's why this is just a warm up. On my rigger, I'm now just going to pull out some areas with a little dragon's blood. Some of this is starting to dry. Some of it's pretty damp and wet. So I'm just finding some of these little dark areas in here. Notice I have some sparky whites. It's just where the paint and the paper didn't have water. That's really all it is. Just charging it up a little bit because there's so much water on here. It's really just spreading out. So yeah, have a little fun. Don't judge it. Don't worry what it looks like. Don't worry about a thing. Please, 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 please. Just feathering that out over there because that's just kind of, I have a lost edge. So one of the most beautiful things that I find about watercolor, there's so many things. There's certainly this mixing that's going on. Don't overcharge it because you don't want to turn too muddy so fast, right? Let the colors be present. Let the colors speak. Let the colors be there. Okay, that's good. But you don't want to overwork it. Let it sort of be there right now without overworking it. We're going to go to another spot on our paper, and that's going to be our green areas. Now, you can use your Cascade, you could use your Undersea, you could use any of your greens that you have. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to use turquoise. I don't know why. I feel in a turquoise mood. maybe it's a little more playful. This is my 1/2 inch flat angled brush. And here again, it's hitting some wet spots, right? It's hitting some wet spots. Now, what's going to happen when that touches the yellow? It turns green. And keep in mind that the leaves on our sunflowers, on every flower really, are very different. Each one of them is like very, very different. So these are very pointy, right? They're very, very pointy. So I'm just coming around here and I'm playing with my colors, but I'm also, it's wet here. And so that just means and I'm using turquoise, but you don't have to. I'm just having a little bit of fun with my color here. I'm coming around and I'm now just sort of tooling out some of these petals that are on this side. So the edge of your brush really does give you some really beautiful marks, very pointy and certainly very sunflowery. They melt into the yellow area, so much the better. Again, lost edges. Watercolors is very much about found edges and lost edges. And that's another tough one for people to accept, like a lost edge. Oh my goodness, will my viewer know what it is? And there's one answer that I could say about that, and that is that you might have to wait till the end to see if you have enough marks. But it's easier to lose an edge now than to try to lose an edge later. You can always gain an edge back. You can always gain an edge back. Now we're going for a drip. And it's not quite dripping, so I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to give it a nice river to move down into. Maybe drop a little yellow in there. Let it drip down. See it's dripping. Moving on down that line. Maybe I'll add a little violet in there. And I'm kind of patient about how this moves, right? I really wait to see how it looks and what's happening with it. So to me, the two magic ingredients of watercolors, of course, you have to have the right paper and you must have the right paints. You have to have professional paper, professional paint. I'm going to take that. That is a given. You must use water and you must use gravity. Those are the two magic ingredients to me that makes watercolors spectacular and scary. Now, just to make it a little greener, I'm going to drop in a little bit of clean gold into some of these leaves, just to take that turquoise down a little bit. Make it a little greener. Really, it just came out to be a beautiful green. Really nice. Now, point out some things while you're painting that I really like that happen. I love some of these whites that just happen because, I don't know, these edges that happened. The fading off of the color up there. These little whites that happened in here, the blending of the violet and the dragon's blood into our yellow or queen gold and queen gold deep. There's some really pretty things here. Look at these lost edges. These are lost because the color of the blue, when it hit that wet area, just exploded. I don't need to make that perfect for you to know what it is. And that's where I really want to go with this. Now, I also am going to drop in a little bit of violet just to deepen some of these areas. I'm not going all the way around, but just a couple little areas to say shadow. Now, what that did was two things. It bridged the palette, meaning I've used the yellow, the dragon's blood, the violet, and the turquoise so far. By dropping that in, I'm bridging the palette, but what I'm also doing is I'm deepening the color. So I achieved two things by doing that. And remember, guys, it's just a warm up. So don't get so attached to everything. I'm waiting for this to dry right here. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I think I'm going to maybe add another drip. Maybe there's another flower that's coming up here. I could just kind of indicate that. I just wanted to show you guys. Just going to add, you don't have to do this, but I just wanted to show you how I could add another. So easily adding another flower here. I need this to dry to really have this work the way I want it to work. So I'm going to wait because it feels too damp, and I don't want, if I work on that damp area right now, it will turn muddy, and I don't want to get mud. I just want it to look really, really strong. So I'm just going to let that dry a little bit. This is a little drier now. I do see some of this kind of spilt into there a little bit. It's still a little wet. So all you have to do is just take your brush and you can just massage it a little bit if something like that happens. And it's gone in a second. It's just gone. And the fact that that's kind of moving in there, it's just a watercolor. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go in here and make this a little bit stronger. And what I'm going to use are all my colors that I've used already. So certainly going to go in with my violet. Now, this is not a rudimentary circle. This has got all kinds of little nooks and crannies, nuances that are going on. That is my cobalt violet. And now I'm dropping a little bit of my dragon's blood, and now I'm going to carry it around into these areas, these reverse areas of these leaves, these petals that are coming in. So make sure that you have these kind of coming in. Let me go a little closer for you. These little opportunities to just have this color. And if you want to take your rigger and just give you a couple of little points coming out. Like so. I'm going to drop a little cobalt in there too. That'll deepen it, and when it dries, it will look really, really good. Really good. Now you could see that I could sort of pull out some of the petals from this center area if you want to. I don't want to get too crazy doing that because I think that says sunflower already. In fact, I'm gonna say that I don't like this one before, so I'm gonna get rid of that.
Jan,
Yeah,
what was the first color that you used to?
it's the same
darken?
colors. I used my turquoise, I'm sorry, my violet. And then I dropped in dragon's blood and my turquoise, the same colors that I used before. So I'm really sticking with those colors. So you could use your imperial or your cobalt violet, whichever one you used before. And I'm going to let this be. I don't really want to work it too much more. I think that sort of, you could drop a little bit of orange into it. I think I'm going to splatter is what I'm going to do. Because I just love the way splatter looks. Now, when I splatter, let me put my palette a little closer into so to show you. I'll pull out, this is my Quinn Gold Deep, and I'll pull a little bit of water out, the color out with my brush, and I thin it out a little bit, and then I'm going to tap it. Maybe I'll do a little bit of dot spray. Kind of let some of those dots kind of move a little bit. Right? Maybe I'll take a little bit of my violet and pull that out and tap that a little bit. Maybe I'll let some of this drip. Get it with some water. Just water from my brush. Now, to me, it looks like I had fun. I didn't get caught up in doing a perfect, a perfect sunflower. I really let it just kind of be what it's going to be. This maybe got a little bit over here. Now I can take this with my brush. I'm wiping my brush on my drying mat here, and I'm just sort of giving it a little bit of lifting. That is a basic watercolor technique. You can also just drop a little bit of water, and the water pushes the paint aside and creates a little bit of that reverse definition that we were going for. And yeah, you can go in and you can really gain back some whites. Some of them are more staining colors than others, but definitely those whites are available to come back to you if you want to, if you want them. So my brush is kind of on the drier side, and I'm just using my drying mat to get me some whites back. And now I drop clean water into those areas, and now it's pushing the paint aside and giving me nice watercolor blossoms in there. That's our warm-up today, guys. I want to do another one with all of you. Now, if you splatter and something is wet, it will melt the mark. If it's a dry area, it will stay just a dot. So if you've got dots where you're not happy, just move it with a little bit of water, which is what I did before. And we have a sunflower, a very loose and fun and exciting sunflower. Now, of course, we could go in and paint all of those, areas here that perhaps would be a nice reverse definition area. So, for instance, what I'm speaking about is this. So let's say I want to build some of these petals here. All right, so I'm just going to draw some petals with I'm not going to do them everywhere, but I'm just drawing some petals. Let me go closer so you could see. So I just drew, a few petals. Now, on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my violet and I'm going to build a sharper, cleaner background. Carry this away with water. Add a little cobalt in there. The turquoise. And now I'm going to just carry that away with my big brush. Let the paint sort of move from me. And now I will show you what that did. Now I have an edge. Now I created a edge to the, so not all, I didn't really want to do it all, but I felt like this was a nice triad of going from this to that. And I have more of a definition of my petals than I did before. And the more you charge it up with your colors, the more those colors sort of start really speaking as they start to dry. I'll tilt my paper and let that be carried away. A bit of water is going to help it move into that corner. Oh yeah, there it goes. That's it. I don't want to do any more to it. There's a point where I just want it to dry and to see if it needs anything more. So this is like another reason why maybe you might get mud, is if you overwork or overcorrect something at the wrong time. You just have to monitor the timing of watercolor and don't try to correct it too soon. That's really very important with watercolor, is to let it be a watercolor. So that's a warm up. We're going to do another one. So the other thing I want to show you is that with, and now that this is a little drier here, with this flat brush, I can go in and I can do some more lifting. And that's really beautiful to be able to go in and just lift some of these, rather than being so worried about it being so perfect before. Okay, the fact that I lifted that a little bit is really good. And it's sort of with a dryish, damp brush. And that says that these petals, even though they're not yellow, they are folded over the center of the sunflower. Okay, so let's put this aside. Let's do another one. And I'm just really using backs of old paintings, and that's how I'm going about this, because you know, I just want to have some fun with it. So okay, here we go. Really back out. Oh, you know what? I'm going to cut this in half, I think. So my paper is just, you know, again, about 9 by 12. That's a good size for us to be working. And this is again 140. Here we go. So let's take, I don't know, I kind of like maybe this one. It's a little bit more involved, a little bit more, there's more layers going on here. But let's draw it out and maybe we do a horizontal. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So again, take any of your pencils. It doesn't really matter. Again, I'm going to use a darker one just so that you guys can see what I'm doing. But I love, like, maybe this one here, this one up here, and maybe some of these. I think they're really nice. So we're going to add a few more. Actually, this is a pretty good cropping, but I think it's a little too busy. So I'm going to start. This is a good one too. All right, so maybe I'll do this one over here. So that's sort of the center. So make sure your centers are not just overly simplified. It's not just brown. There's a lot of little nooks and crannies that you want to have there. And maybe come around and kind of indicate some of those petals that are coming into. I know it's better if I'm out here, this way you could see what I'm referring to. Okay, so here we go. I'm not really going to worry about my petals coming out. Maybe I'll give it a couple of spiky leaves. Even these, have them be not lined up like soldiers. Just really vary your marks. It will be a much more interesting painting if you do that. Okay. So I'm over here. Now I'm going to come over here. Again, there's these petals that are sort of in the center. It is not round. You are finding the nuances as an artist to give yourself some really beautiful marks. Again, these flowers here, the petals coming out, I'm not going to worry about those. We want to paint that. Draw where it goes, paint what it is. Okay. So these petals will come out here, but then there's some beautiful leaves that are here. There's another one there, beautiful leaves. Some beautiful leaves here. And then we have more of our flower here. Look at that. Oh, these leaves are just so expressive. Actually, that's a really good way to think about it. Have your marks be expressive. I like that. I never thought about it that way before, but I really like that idea. So we have 1 here, 2 here, 3 there. Maybe we do this. Let's just do the 3. Okay. So we're doing 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do it the same way. I might suggest some of this here, but everything does not have to be in focus. Not everything has to be on the same plane. We could throw things out of focus by letting it melt, letting the marks melt. And we're going to again start with our big mop brush, and we're just going to arbitrarily add water. We're not going to worry about where the water goes. We just want to be sure that there's pockets of wet and there's pockets of dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt my paper again so you can sort of see how arbitrary this is. Actually have a little bit of color on here. I'm not staying within any lines, absolutely paying attention to nothing. Now, if I hold it, you could see. Okay, so actually some of my marks with my pencil are starting to melt a little bit. That's okay, right? That's what colored pencils do. Watercolor pencils anyway. And I'm going to take the number 10 and I'm going to start again with my Queen Gold. It's the perfect sunflower color. Now over here, we could just start dropping in. Now again, you're going to hit wet spots and you're going to hit dry spots. That's the fun of what's happening. Look, it's backing into there. It's just gorgeous. And have your marks be beautiful. Where they're wet, they might not show up. Where they end, make sure where they end on a dry area that they're beautiful. And just coming around here, again, I'm hitting dry spots and wet spots all over the place. I'm not worried about anything. And this is what I like about this particular way of working. I'm really not worried about the yellow going into the Leaves, because leaves are blue when they're green, so they're blue and yellow, right? So you're okay. The violet, in the center where it goes, that's okay too, because why? Well, the violet and the yellow tone each other down. Okay, so that's there. And then we have these beautiful areas here. So I want you to consider where it's hitting a dry area. Make sure that those are interesting and they're beautiful. Don't line them up evenly. There are all kinds of fabulous nuances that are going on with these petals and the leaves. And so I want you to be cognizant of those when you're making your marks, when you're making your dry marks, and when you're letting things move into order. Soft and lost edges. This is sort of dried up here. So these marks are going to be a lot drier. You're going to be a little bit more specific. You can wet it again if you wanted to, you know, that's. Or not. I think I'm going to, my dot sprayer, just kind of hit a couple of spots up here. I want the paint from my brush to find some great spots and have the dot sprayer take it away. If your edges look a little too perfect, just zhuzh them up a little bit. We're trying to think of how to spell zhuzh. If anybody has any idea how to spell zhuzh, please let me know if you were at a loss in our class the other day. Dropping in a little bit of my Queen Gold Deep. Letting it move. That deepens the gold really nicely. Over here a little bit. Pick and choose where it goes. Doesn't have to go everywhere. I'm adding a fourth flower right over here. Just a suggestion, very light suggestion. Okay. I think I'll do it differently. I did turquoise before, so I think I'll do it a little differently now. All right. First thing I want to do is just add a little bit of turquoise to the center here, a little bit of turquoise, just to start the conversation. Just to let it start playing a little bit. Wet into wet, just a little wet into wet. We'll come back to it. And like, all right, I got to show you. Look at what's happening. That is, look at that just melting and just beautifully moving into a wet into wet area. To me, that is the reason to paint in watercolor right here. This is it. That is like, I can't even tell you. Crazy. It's so beautiful. Had to show you that. So, okay, so I did turquoise in the last one. Maybe we use our undersea in this one. We'll go a little bit more realistic, a little less crazy. And now there are wet areas here, so if I go in with my undersea, I'm gonna switch brushes. I think I used this last time, the flat angled brush. So I think I'm going to make those marks with this flat angled brush and my undersea. If you want to grab a little bit of our not Quinn Gold, a little bit of your yellowish green or goldish green, go right ahead. Look at the little tails that I have going on my leaves. That's what you want. We want them to be interesting and different and going in different directions and just beautiful little points. Please don't make them even. Have them go a little different directions. Have them be interesting. Just by the color and the shape, people are going to know what they are. You don't have to, be so perfect with all of this. The idea really is for us to have some fun. This is still wet, so that's really spreading out. Okay, I'm taking it in. I'm working with it. If you want to wait, if you see that happening and you want to wait, I get it. Totally understand that. I'm okay with seeing what happens. I'm taking a little bit of my green and I'm entering it into the center of that dark area on the sunflower to do two things, deepen it and to bridge the palette. Now, I just want to show you, look what I did. Even, 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 even. Even I do it. I do that even Steven thing. So I'm going to disrupt it. It's so easy to do, but it is very hard to stop yourself. It's very interesting. We create these patterns that maybe you see it and maybe you don't. I don't know. I mean, I guess our minds want to have a sense of
Jan,
yeah.
I
Yes.
can't see the leaves on the top. There you go. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. We want to create, I guess, a sense of unity or evenness or something. But look, that even bled into there. I think that's just the beauty of watercolor. So it's certainly nothing that I'm going to worry about. If you don't want it bleeding, move into a dry area. But I think that letting that happen is actually a very good thing because it helps you understand watercolors that much more. A little bit of green in the center of this. So the idea of what you're looking at when you are using a source, as in this photo, it is just a suggestion. That's all it is. It's inspiration. Don't be a slave to it. The angled brush is giving me some really good little marks. I enjoy them. This is a little wet still, so I can't really get the little tails of the leaves as much as I'd like to, so that's okay, I'll wait on that. Can always go back there. Notice here I just did a little bit of reverse definition. The rigger is a good little brush to get some of these great little squigglies at the end of the leaves. Some stems, some nice drippy stems. When you add that violet, it sort of deepens it and it makes it a little bit more like it's falling into shadow. Again, your brush is going to hit dry spots and wet spots. It's sort of the beauty of working this way, of not knowing really what's going to happen. And those little unexpected opportunities are really what's going to help you loosen up and be a little freer with your paintings. These are probably my favorite, not my favorite flower, but my favorite leaves, these little pointy leaves, just, I love them.
One of my flowers looks like a starfish.
I'm sorry, what's that?
One of my flowers looks like a starfish.
Okay, well, it looks like you created a pattern there. That's all I could say.
Yeah, good point.
You created a pattern and, you know, you just need to work it so that things are not so done with such definitive edges. So lose some edges, lose some edges.
Thanks, Jan.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, so it just means that you sort of tried to control it, and it sounds like you have you know, a situation of a pattern going on, and that needs to be interrupted. If you don't want to come up with an exact edge, you could melt your edges, just melt them together. You know, I don't have to have a hard edge here for you to know that there's leaves and there's an end to it. So think of your lost edges as something that perhaps you want to continue to explore a little bit. Lost edges, they all do not have to be hard, sharp edges. They absolutely do not. So in here, I added more violet, I added more green, and I added more dragon's blood. So now there's enough color for me to sort of build these other petals a little bit more that are folded over. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So let me back out and show you how I just built that a little bit, but notice it's not, you know, it's not too rudimentary in terms of the reverse walk that I made. Dragon's Way really looks good. This is a nice palette, nice color palette. The greens, the golds, that little bit of orange and violet are a really beautiful combination. You could, you know, think about a limited palette as well. You know, you could don't have to use every color that you see, which is a very nice way to work. So you could reduce your painting to just a few colors and not have it be so many. Just dragging these out to some rivers over here. Not doing it everywhere. I'm clearly not defining every petal at all. Lost edges. Lose some edges. Be fearless. Try using some lost edges, just letting them sort of go. I don't like these shapes are a little too rudimentary, so I'm just going to adjust a little bit. Those little tips are not perfectly oval. They really do have a different kind of a shape to them. So they have a little flutter to them, a little edge, you know, they're not all perfect. So be sensitive to that. I have a lot of lost edges in here. I just want to show you that a lost edge really can do exactly what you needed to do. And that is suggest something without it being done with precision. Yeah. Not every mark has to be, oh, this is still wet, so I kind of want to wait to go in there. Maybe I'll come in too. I don't really care for 1, 2, 3. I'm going to break that up. Squint at your work and see if you have that, you know, those even marks. And interrupt them a little bit. You can do it. And if you want, remember we have that option of lifting. So if you want to, oh, I don't know, let's see a good spot, maybe here. With a damp brush, you can go in and create some beautiful petals by just doing a little lifting. These edge brushes are really good for that. Where else can I do it? Maybe here. This. Yeah, that little idea of, so I actually did 4 flowers, have a suggested one here, a suggested one there, and the 2 main characters. I mean, I could build another one here. Let me show you. You could build it to be a bouquet, or you know, that idea of what, you know, you saw at the market or in a field or whatever, right? You can build it to be that. Some in the background and not all the same size. You know, that's important that you recognize that. A bit of violet. And there's a point where I just want to let it be and see what happens, how it dries. There's a lot of things that I really like. I'm crazy about this area that violet just moved right in there. I love these soft edges here, where I really can't decipher one flower from the other, but the viewer can. All right, your viewer is able to do that for you. So leave something for the viewer to figure out in their own eye. Let their eye move around your painting and fill in some blanks for you. You don't have to give them everything. Okay, what we're going to do is just get away from our sunflowers for a moment, and just try a simple thistle plant. I'm not even going to draw. If you want to, you can just do a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of a base. That's all I'm going to require. And the rest is going to be rivers. Okay. Rivers are probably one of my favorite things to do. And it just means you use your rigger in a very interesting way. So there's my rigger ready to go. My number 10. I'm going to start with a little bit of my green. That's my undersea green. Now, I'm going to pull it down with my rigger. Not straight. I want to have some fun with it. The rest I'm going to do with my rigger guns. Okay. Now we're going to use our violets, which I'm going to drop a little bit into here. I'm going to go closer for you guys. Actually, let me go back to this camera and zoom in for you. There we go. Okay. Use your Verzino violet, little pink. And now I'm going to invite, here's my rigger. Nothing on here but water. And I'm going to invite some of this to come into the top part of the thistle. And I left a little bit of pink, a little bit of white. I'm going to drop some more pink in. And now the fun begins. And what I'm going to do with my rigger is just start pulling using, I'm going to use Rose of Ultramarine. I'm going to use all my different violets to create these beautiful marks. That's my imperial. Now, make sure that these are overlapping, that some are longer than others. Make them interesting marks. Nothing here is this, I'm just doing this with water. These are rivers that I'm doing here. Be sure that they are just being carried around with your brush in an interesting way. And if you pull it out with water, right, then as it moves, and notice I'm crisscrossing a lot of these and connecting some of them with a little bit of water, a little bit of Morse code. I could do this all day long. This is just like, to me, the most fun to do this and just create beautiful patterns. And make sure your patterns are not rudimentary. Make sure they're just not even. Disrupt them and have them be beautiful marks. See how I just connected all of those together? That's what you want. And the violet and the pink are just merging, and that's what happened down here too, right? A little bit of pink got into my green, and I'm going to add that to my stem a little bit. And I'll show you how to do a bee. And these are just things that you just practice over and over again until you see the flower appearing the way you want it to. Most of these are just done with water on my brush and pulling them out so that they just fade into a beautiful soft mark. And squint, make sure they're not evenly lined up. Okay, make sure they're not evenly lined up. We'll splatter. Use some soft pink. Because the bee came and created a little bit of a pollen action. Now the bee. For yellow. For yellow. For yellow.
What color yellow are you using?
Any yellow. I used my Quinn, but it doesn't matter. Yellow. I love when you guys ask me those questions. You're so cute. Here's my violet. Notice it's wet into wet. Now I'm going to just pull out a little bit as if a wind. Now, I think I did that in under 5 minutes. It just doesn't take a lot for it to read as flower and bee. If you wanted to just charge up a little bit of that yellow, just so that it's not just in one spot, I would say maybe down here might be a good spot. Again, not having color just be in one spot, and then a little bit over here. Now I'm not even using a reference to do this. But I'm sure if I were to look at a thistle, it'd be like, I'd be shocked at how off I am, but maybe not, you know. Everybody know what this looks like. I think I'm pretty close. And besides, it's my thistle. Just expanding these with a little bit of water. And I have a bee on top of a thistle. I love it. I don't even know if thistles have leaves. I'm sure they do. They might, I think they might have little spiky things coming out of the bottom here. If they don't, I'm gonna add them because I like them. This is all wet. So when you have a wet situation, a wet area, you're able to draw upon that color to carry it through to other areas. This practice these little techniques because they really do give you a very good understanding of how little information you need to really depict a flower or a little area or whatever, you know, no drawing really even needed to do this.
Mrs. Blanche, would you ever do it upside down and pull the colors out? Or would that spoil? Or would that,
You mean paint this upside down?
yeah,
Absolutely. Painting upside down is a great way for you to disorientate your view and have it not be so much of a pattern. So I do find painting upside down extremely helpful. So absolutely. You know, you sort of get out of the precision of something, and then you're thrown into a situation where you're not sure. And so you paint in a way in which you have to look closer and see what it is you want to do or not do. So I paint upside down a lot. I think that's a good way to go. So it's a good suggestion. So if ever there's an area that you're not happy with, right, that you can always crop it, you know, you always take it and kind of crop it in the direction that you want. And that becomes your what you mat and frame. So I think we'll do one more loose painting because this way you can really enjoy working on these loose flowers any time of day and not get very caught up in the perfection of them. So this is what I would probably say was a wisteria. So I would again just get a scrap piece of paper. I'm just having fun here, so I don't really care the backs of other paintings that I am not really that thrilled with. So you know, use them. You know, and I'm just using 140. And they're about 8 by 10, 7 by 10-ish. Now, all you're really going to have to do for this one is, let me back out of this a little bit more. Okay, there we go. Again, I would just say, all you really need is a center area where you're painting, or you could come from this way. Let's just practice that. So let's take, I'm going to take my, let's see, either green gold or our Holbein leaf green, some beautiful light spring green, because the wisterias really are in more the springtime, okay? And so I'm going to take my leaf green and because that's a beautiful spring color. And I'm just with my rigger. I'm going to start it from coming from the other way. So I'm going to come from up here. Think of, you know, little dots and dashes. And that Holbein leaf green is just such a great green. Okay, again, I don't have any reference. I'm really not going to worry about any kind of reference at all. And I'm just going to pull out some maybe little, this is, you know, one flower blossom, but I want to pull out a little bit of that leaf green into the areas that I'm going to be making the violet. Okay, just a little bit of carrying that color down. I'm going to drop a little bit of my green gold in. That just will deepen it a little bit and give me a little bit more of. Now, I'm going to switch to my number 10 brush from the mat. And I'm going to use a soft violet, and I find that the Imperial Purple is a nice soft violet. So I'm not working wet into wet on this one, okay? We're going to be creating the wet into wet. So now I'm dropping these areas in that are just on the top of the blossoms. And they do get a little smaller as they travel down. And again, I'm not really looking at any reference. Now, what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to take my big brush with some water on it. So we're working a little bit differently. And coming from the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let those little areas that I dropped in explode. And you could see how they exploded. Now from there, I can expand some of the blossoms. I like the violet, the Imperial Purple, because it turns into pinks. It has a tendency to turn into pink. So what am I doing? I'm just charging the areas up a little bit. And I'm going to tilt my paper a little bit because I want it to sort of travel for me, right? I want to cool it down. I think I'm going to use my cobalt bluish violet. Just drop a little bit of other color, another violet into it. And I'm letting this move into this wet area that I created with my brush. Now, if it gets stuck, take your clean water brush and just have it go a little further beyond where, so it doesn't stop. And holding on to some of those beautiful whites are pretty important. I find those super important. I'm going to drop a little cobalt in, because I just don't want it to be just so purple. So I'm dropping, not everywhere, but a couple of areas I am entering into an area that, just to let it, the blue and the green and the violet sort of all speak to each other. Now, when you're dropping color into a wet area, you want to be sure that you have more paint on your brush than water. Otherwise, you may just wash out what is going on your paper. So when you go in and you charge an area, you want to make sure that it has a lot of paint on it. And squint to make sure you like your white areas. If not, close some of them up if they created too much of a pattern. Just give it a little bit of water and boom, you're done. Just love those explosions. So I'm really like just watching those with such enjoyment. And now we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. Maybe the bottom we handle differently. why don't we practice what we did before? Or maybe we use our dot sprayer. The dot sprayer, by the way, is the same thing as what we did with just our brush, but in a little bit more controlled area. So if you take your dot sprayer, you get it to be in your water bowl, you feel a little resistance to the top. And now I'm just going to drop in. It's the same idea. And in fact, if you let a little bit of your dot sprayer hit the top part, you're going to see little watercolor blossoms happening. So if you look right here, that's where my dot sprayer hit. And it already created beautiful watercolor blossoms. And now I'm going to do the same thing, but in a different, kind of patterned way. So now it's wet. So you want to make sure that you're pulling enough paint with your number 10. And it's going to do what the wetting it before it did, which was letting the paint find these areas of wet. Look at that, just trickling down, finding the little wet spots. That's just great. I could do this all day long, never come out the same way. And that's the beauty of it. It's not reproducible. We can just, it's the experience of what's happening in the moment. That's just so much fun. And it's such a watercolor experience. See those drops that I added, those watercolor drops that I just added with a little bit of water. Splatter a little bit of my lime green, my leaf green rather. Just taking a little bit of that color and going beyond. Fill up my paper a little bit more. Very wet to wet right now. Very drippy. Just really softly making a background. Charging up a couple of little areas because the water will tone it down. And these blossoms are just the water from the water are just pushing the paint out of the way and creating what a lot of people are very afraid of, which is, a watercolor blossom, that kind of scares people. But to me, I just love them. I love seeing them. I love the use of them. And because there is a way to use them in a very fearless kind of way. Very watercolory way. And I'd say that's a really fun wisteria I'm looking at. And I used every single thing that I love about watercolor to do it. Saving your whites, charging up an area, letting wet into wet happen. All of those things are very exciting to me. To me, that's the reason for watercolor. And yes, we could control every single mark that we make. Absolutely. I know we could do that. I know you all are capable of doing that. And I think that for us, the fun is like, okay, yeah, I can do that. What else is watercolor kind of there for me to do? And to me, that's it right there. Right there. Just kind of, that's the wisteria. So that one. Here's our sunflower. It's the other sunflower. Yeah, you're not happy with an area, just crop it out. But I kind of like everything that happens here. I'm really okay with that. Now, a little thistle. Let me put this back for you guys. These mats are really one of the best tools you have for not throwing out a painting because they really do showcase what an area that you could like and frame and mat and hang and not get like thinking, oh, it's an incomplete painting. It's not, you know, what I liked. It didn't come out the way I expected. I'm going to turn this a little bit more. Yeah, you're not stuck with anything you painted. Absolutely not. So that's today's fun, fabulous flowers. We did more than just sunflowers. We explored a few other options, which I hope you guys practice. It's very different than any other way that we paint. And if you can't do it with flowers, this fun, loose, fabulous, you know, process, stand back and enjoy the watercolors and enjoy what they do for you. And, you know, let it move, let it paint for you. All right. All right. Well, it's Jan Guarino, Fearless Watercolors. Thanks for joining me today. And I hope to see you again soon. Keep painting. Be fearless. Bye now.